You are sitting still. Nothing is happening. No notifications. No noise. No task demanding your attention. Just you, and a quiet room, and a few minutes of absolutely nothing to do. And almost immediately, something inside you starts to panic. You reach for your phone, you drum your fingers. You get up to check the fridge even though you are not hungry. Your mind throws thought after thought at the wall, looking for something, anything, to grab onto. That feeling has a name, and it turns out it is one of the strangest, most revealing things your brain ever does. It is boredom, and it is far more dangerous and far more important than you have ever been told. Here is what no one tells you. Boredom is not the absence of thought. It is the opposite. When you are bored, your brain does not go quiet. It actually becomes more active than it is during most of your waking life. A specific network of regions, researchers call it the default mode network, lights up the moment your external world stops demanding things from you. Your medial prefrontal cortex, your posterior cingulate cortex, your angular gyrus, all of them firing together, pulling your mind inward. Scientists first noticed this in the early 2000s. Marcus Rachel, a neurologist at Washington University, was studying brain scans and noticed something that made no sense. When subjects were given nothing to do, no task, no problem to solve, certain brain regions became dramatically more active. Not less, more. He called this the resting state. But resting was the wrong word. Because your brain, in those moments, is not resting. It is working on something else entirely. It is working on you. The default mode network is the part of your brain responsible for self-referential thinking. It is where you replay memories, where you imagine futures, where you rehearse conversations that have not happened yet, where you ask yourself who you are, what you want, whether your life is going in the right direction. This network is, in a very real sense, the machine that constructs your sense of self, and it only runs when you stop. Think about that. The part of your brain most responsible for knowing who you are only gets to run when you are doing nothing, when you are bored, when you are sitting in silence and resisting every urge to fill the quiet with distraction. Now think about how rarely that happens anymore. Here is where it gets strange. Your brain does not just dislike boredom, it fears it. In 2014, a series of experiments by Timothy Wilson at the University of Virginia revealed something that shocked the scientific community. Participants were placed alone in a room with no phone, no book, no distraction. They were told to sit quietly with their thoughts for 6 to 15 minutes. That was the entire task. Just think. Most of them hated it. Many called it unpleasant. Some could not finish. And when researchers gave participants the option to administer a mild electric shock to themselves rather than continue sitting quietly, a shock so unpleasant that many had paid money earlier in the study to avoid it, a stunning number chose the shock. Nearly 2/3 of men and a quarter of women pressed the button. They chose pain over silence. Your brain would rather hurt itself than be bored. Why? To understand that, you have to go back. Much further back than Wilson's lab. You have to go back to the environment your brain was actually built for. Your ancestors lived in a world where doing nothing was dangerous. If you were sitting still in the open with no task and no threat to respond to, something was wrong. Either you were missing a chance to gather food, to repair a shelter, to strengthen a social bond that might one day save your life. Or worse, something was about to find you. Stillness, in that world, was a warning sign. A gap in vigilance, a moment of vulnerability that predators and rivals could exploit. So your brain evolved an alarm system for stillness. When external stimulation drops, the brain does not coast. It escalates. It sends a signal. Find something. Do something. Move. Your boredom is not a personality flaw. It is an ancient safety mechanism misfiring in a world your ancestors could never have imagined. The problem is that the alarm is still running. And now, for the first time in human history, you have an infinite number of ways to silence it instantly. Every ping, every scroll, every autoplay video and algorithm-tuned feed is a direct line to that ancient alarm, offering to shut it off, offering to rescue you from nothing. And you take it. Almost every time. Researchers Sandy Mann and Rebecca Cadman at the University of Central Lancashire have found something quietly alarming in their work on boredom and creativity. When they allowed participants to sit with boredom, truly sit with it without escape, those participants showed dramatically higher levels of creative thinking afterward. Reading a telephone directory for 15 minutes, copying numbers from a phone book, tasks designed to bore, and then measured for creative output. The bored participants consistently outperformed those who went straight into a creative task. Your brain needs boredom to generate its best ideas. Not stimulation, not information, not entertainment. Boredom. When the default mode network runs freely, it does not just replay old memories and rehearse conversations. It makes connections. It takes two seemingly unrelated ideas from different corners of your experience and links them. It finds patterns you were too busy to notice. It solves problems you were not consciously working on. This is why your best ideas come in the shower. Why you think of the perfect thing to say during a walk. Why the solution to the thing that kept you up all night arrives fully formed the next morning, in the space between sleep and waking. Your brain needs a gap to do this. A window of unstimulated time. A moment where you are not giving it anything new to process, so it can finally sort through everything it has already collected. And you are closing that window faster than any generation before you. There is a concept in psychology called ego depletion. Your capacity for self-control and effortful thinking is not unlimited. It drains across the day. And one of the things that drains it fastest is constant context switching. Jumping from input to input, task to task, notification to notification, never allowing any mental process to fully complete. When researchers measure cognitive fatigue, they find that the brain's ability to regulate emotion, make decisions, and sustain attention degrades sharply when it never gets genuine rest. And here is the part that is easy to miss. Scrolling is not rest. Watching videos is not rest. Even conversations and podcasts are not rest. All of these are inputs. They demand processing. They keep your attention management system running on empty while creating the sensation of relaxation. They feel like doing nothing. But they are not. Your default mode network cannot run while you are processing external stimulation. It gets crowded out, suppressed. The machine that builds your sense of self does not get its turn. Boredom is that machine's turn. Researchers at University College London, studying the relationship between mental downtime and memory consolidation, have found that the brain uses its uncoupled, unstimulated moments to consolidate memories, to move what you have recently experienced from short-term processing into long-term storage, and to weave it into your existing understanding of the world. This is not a passive process. It requires sustained, undirected mental activity. It requires the default mode network running freely, without interruption. In other words, for you to truly learn something, you need to stop doing things long enough for your brain to actually absorb it. For you to know who you are, you need to stop distracting yourself long enough for your brain to tell you. And for you to think your most original thoughts, you need to sit in the uncomfortable, ancient, panic-inducing stillness of doing absolutely nothing. You are probably reading this on a screen. There is probably something else you could click on right now. Something easier, something louder, something that will quiet that ancient alarm before it gets too uncomfortable. But you will not find anything there that your own mind cannot generate in the space between one thought and the next, if you let it run. The next time you feel bored, your brain is not failing you. It is asking you for something it can only get when the world goes quiet. The question is whether you will give it the silence it needs, or reach for the shock instead. You are still sitting still. Nothing is happening. No notifications, no noise, no task demanding your attention. And this time, you know exactly what your brain is doing with it.